Okay, qualifications of elders then. Now that introduces us to why the qualifications are so strict. And I forgot to bring that sheet of paper where a preacher actually had the nerve to print it out. And I kept it. And I forgot to dig it out of my file cabinet somewhere where it is. I think it's in a folder I have called Letters from Lost Souls. But I have it in there where a preacher on Long Island said that there are no such things as qualifications of elders. They're only qualities.
Wow.
Qualities. Nah. Qualities. The word quality comes from, and qualification come from the same word, by the way, at least in English in root. But as soon as you see a word in Greek or in English called, two words called must be, that's stating a qualification or a qualifier. And anybody that knows anything about language knows that. So I want us now to turn to 1 Timothy. And we're going to be 2 or 3 weeks on qualifications, I know that. 1 Timothy chapter 3. I'm reading from the New American Standard. It's a trustworthy statement. If any man aspires to the office of an overseer or bishop or watcher, remember how it's translated? It is a fine or good work he desires to do. It's not a great office he desires to have. Notice that. It's a good work he desires to do. So you're desiring to do work if you're desiring the office of an elder. Okay? An overseer then must be. And you should underline that in your Bible. You should circle it. You should put highlights on it. You should put stars in the margin next to it. Must be. And then all these other things, these qualifiers.
Not make it, but must.
He must be.
Yeah.
King James will say blameless, I think. Mine says above reproach. Now what does that above reproach mean?
Above accusation.
Above accusation. It doesn't mean he's sinless. But there's a difference between having no faults or being faultless. Blameless in this regard is above reproach, above scandal. Is another way of saying it, a better way of saying it. He's not scandalous and he is above the scandal. He must be the husband of 3 wives. No. The husband of no wives. No. He must be the husband of only 1 wife, is what it says. Well, I think the King James says, having been the husband of 1 wife. Just like the widows indeed, having been the wife of 1 husband.
It also doesn't say that they must be the wife of 1 husband.
And it doesn't say these elders or eldresses must be the wife of 1 husband. He's talking about a male bishop, not female.
Yeah.
So can women be elders? Well, they're not allowed to have husbands. Well, maybe they can nowadays. And call her husband Sally her husband. What? No. Well, if one of them dresses up in a tux and the other one in a gown at their wedding, no, it doesn't make any difference. Well, they had a sex change operation. Yeah, check their DNA. Check their chromosomes. They're still what they were when they were born.
Oh, there you go.
They don't change. I don't care how you mutilate them.
If King James says has been, does that mean that maybe he, was the husband of one wife for a long time? He was serving as an elder. Maybe his wife died, or if his wife dies, is he no longer capable of being an elder?
Literally, if you look this up in the Greek, that phrase is being a one-woman kind of man.
Right.
Okay? Literally, it means he is a one-woman kind of guy.
Right.
But if that's all that it means, that means something entirely different.
Different, right. It can mean. So you have to watch it. But it means he's a one-woman man. Literally, he's a one-woman man. Because there's no husband and wife in Greek.
But that right there would mean that he doesn't even have to be married.
No, you're going to see why he needs to be.
He has to be, yeah.
He must be a husband of, or a man of one woman. That means belonging to. Temperate. What does temperate mean?
Under control.
Under control. Excellent.
Right.
Sober,
Level-headed.
vigilant,
Yeah.
aware. What's that word he used?
Level-headed.
Level-headed.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't fly off the handle. He's temperate.
Yeah. Temper.
Means he doesn't have a temper.
Right.
Doesn't get angered easily.
Right.
Now Jesus got angered. He cleansed the temper. At the temple, rather. And when and they looked at him and they thought, they remembered the passage. Zeal for my Father's house hath consumed me. Talking about Jesus. So don't tell me he wasn't upset when he made a scourge of cords instead of a scourge of cords. He made a scourge of cords, of whip, out of cords. That means he spread them out. Opened that rope up. Took a knot at one end, held it, and started whipping people, driving them out, taking their tables and the money changers and flipping them over. And people ran.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't some flimsy guy, because you do that in some flea markets, they're going to pounce on you for turning over their tables and spilling their money out on the floor. And then it says, zeal for my Father's house has consumed me. So, it's okay to get angry, just don't sin. And that wasn't a sin for him. And Jesus wasn't the kind of man to be out of control. He was temperate.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you never get angry. Okay, now. He must be prudent. That means careful in your behavior. Prudent in behavior. Of good behavior. Hospitable, or given to hospitality. I think King James says.
Mine says prudent and then respectable.
Prudent, respectable, and then, respectable. I left that off. Yeah, sober-minded or prudent, under control, and then respectable is orderly, of good behavior. Prudent, respectable, and given to hospitality. You know what that means? I want you to ask yourself the question, how many times have you been invited into the elders' homes? In a congregation that has elders. How many times? Well, we go to the preacher's. No. An elder is given to hospitality. He is hospitable. You have to turn his invitations down. Because he's constantly having the flock, not just other leadership, the flock over his house. Because he knows the sheep, and his sheep know him. And they know them that have the rule over them in the Lord. And they hear their voice, and they follow. Given to hospitality means, well, what if you don't have much? I don't have a lot to give. You know what? it don't take a lot to be hospitable.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
I went into the home of Brother and Sister Clemens in Wyandanch, New York, on Tuesday nights to teach a little Bible class in their home for years. He was an old black sharecropper back in the day. So now if he was alive, he'd be over 100 years old now.
I see.
But I remember going into his house, and if his wife could make a little bit of iced tea from old tea bags, and she'd try to offer you some cookies or something that she made, or peanuts. They were given to hospitality. And if I didn't want to eat it or drink it, I'd have to turn it down.
Yeah.
And every time you'd see him, he'd be trying to hand you little, like the brother does here, try to hand you these little candies.
Brother Jones.
And they'd try to hand you these little candies. And you'd say, thank you. And you'd take it. But he was given to hospitality. Able to teach. Not, he's a good elder, he's a good shepherd, but he's not a good teacher. He doesn't have that ability. That's not his gift. And that's where these people, these preachers come off with this. Elders need to have a combined qualification then, or qualities that make up the whole eldership. So one elder is hospitable, the other elder, but he's not able to teach. The other one is able to teach, but he's not very hospitable, but together they're the eldership. No. An elder must be, a bishop, singular, must be. All these things, not the eldership must be. It doesn't say the eldership. Or the elders must be, plural. It says an elder, singular, must have these multiple qualifications.
A good way to think about that, perhaps, would be the qualifications for a job. Must be, like for a programmer or something, must be proficient in
and then
coding for Java.
JSP, all this other stuff.
That's a qualification.
Fortran, COBOL, all these other things. They must, or we're not interested in you.
Right.
Must have work project manager experience. Well, how can one guy have all of that? Time, experience.
Good in technical writing.
Good, all that. Good in technical writing. You need to have all these qualifications for certain jobs. Right. Well, he's a good programmer, he just can't talk to people. Well, how is he going to work with the team? Because unless he likes to sit in his own corner and just do his own thing. We're not looking for him. And neither is the Lord for the eldership. But each elder must be these things. Not addicted to wine. What does that mean? Not given to wine. It doesn't mean he doesn't drink wine.
Not a drunkard?
Not a drunkard, but that's something else I think he's going to go into. But the point is he's not addicted to wine. Meaning that he's not a wino. He's not a lush. Because some guys, especially when you get older, like to relax and they have some wine, and some guys want to have more than they should. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And some brothers, I love my vodka. I got to have my vodka. Well, you know what? He's saying in here is not even hard spirits. He's talking about wine here, and he says not addicted to wine, not given to much wine. Okay. Or pugnacious. What is that?
Argumentative?
Violent.
Oh,
Ready for a fight. Like you call a pug.
Mine say brawler.
gentle.
Yours says not a brawler. Yeah.
Okay.
It's ready for a fight. Whether verbally or physically. Like I said, at that time, my first Sunday as a Christian, my wife and I went into a Bible class at a certain church on Long Island. And We saw an elder and a deacon grabbing each other by the throat, threatening to throw each other through the glass door that was in the downstairs.
Oh my God.
I'll throw you right through that. Oh, yeah, no, I say throw you first. And blah, 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 right? That was during Bible class, by the way. And they were grabbing each other by the throat. Pugnacious. And that elder was known to be pugnacious. Turns out. But gentle. Uncontentious. That means they're not argumentative. They're not looking for a fight. Pugnacious means they are looking for a fight. And uncontentious means they're not soon to anger. They're not ready. Uncontentious means not a fighter. Oh, I thought they have to be ready to defend the sheep and all that. Yeah, you can do that. And look, I know some gentle giants that they're great until they're provoked in the worst way. You know, I used to think of the Hulk that way, the old TV series. And when he would crash through a concrete wall, he'd pick up a little baby and carry it to safety and put it down. And then fight these bad guys and throw them through the air with sound effects. You wouldn't want to get on his bad side if you were a bad guy. But he didn't hurt the good guys. He was only defending the weak or when they were attacking him himself. Uncontentious and free. Free, not... Well, he's got a problem with it, but he's working on it. No, free from the love of money. Now, there are some elders that they say, well, everything this guy touches turns to gold. Well, he could be extremely blessed like Solomon, I guess.
That would be kind of hard to define, that one.
It would be hard to define. Free from the love of money. Oh, no. There are people who love money. They love having it. They love the power it gives them. They love the freedom it gives them. They love the influence it gives them. They love being able to buy the finest car, the finest clothes, and show off. That love of money is expressed in what they love the money to do for them.
Yeah.
It would have to be obvious. In other words, instead of him just having a nice home with nice things in it.
Oh, it could be worse than that. It could be a poor guy that charges a blind girl $5 in gas to bring her to a Bible study. Which I've seen. And he wasn't rich. But I bet you if it was a concert to see some band or some Madonna or something that he loved at the time, he would have spent the $5 and came up with the money somehow. And not needed to borrow it from a blind girl who he was driving to a Bible study who wasn't a member. We were trying to evangelize her.
Wow.
So, okay. Free from the love of money. Must be one who manages his own household well. Now that means his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. Now, some people will say this is talking bishops. This is not talking about the family, his own family. It's talking about the church children, his church family. No, he says keeping his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. But if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? So there is the contrast. Is that my foot here? If he doesn't know how to take care of his own household, how can he take care of the church of God? So his own household is not the church. It's saying, look at his household. Look at the job he's doing at home, and you'll know the kind of job he's going to do in the church. And that's why when we get into Titus, the qualifications for elders in Titus chapter 1, and it says his children must be believers.
Right.
Must be Christians. Some people will say, well, these elders, they got kids, but when their kids grew up and moved out of the house, away from his influence, they fell away. Okay, so now you know the kind of job he's going to do in the church.
One.
Right? Now you know the kind of job he's going to do in the church. As soon as they get out from underneath his influence, they're gone. And you'll see congregations where when the preacher leaves, so does the church.
Right.
Or when they get away, or the Christians just move from that preacher. They're not faithful anymore because they like that guy. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about, look at the kind of job he did in the house. One who manages his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity. That they have to be, in Titus chapter 1, we're going to see believers. Because if he doesn't manage his own household well, how can he take care of the church of God? It's a bigger job, is what he's saying, than even taking care of his own house.
Amen.
And that's why I'm telling you, when people have asked me, so why aren't you an elder? Because I'm not qualified.
That's an honest statement.
Right. That's very honest. Yeah.
Two of the reasons are that if I have a son or a daughter who is not a faithful member of the Lord's church today, then I don't care. Well, they're in their 30s and 40s now. That doesn't matter anymore. But when they were home, were they Christians? No, when they were home, they were kids. They got to know what kind of a shepherd you are, what kind of a parent you are, what kind of parent you'll be to the members of the flock. And if you were deficient in your own family, how can you do that job in the church?
Right. Amen.
And I know so many elders whose children, adult children, have fallen away, are not faithful Christians, and those men are still serving as elders because they won't resign. And if they want to resign, then the preachers won't let them resign, and they convince them that they don't have to.
Oh boy. Start.
But look at what the passage says. Look at the kind of job they're doing in their own household, and you will see the kind of job that they will do in the church.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what this is saying. So if I see that when people get out from underneath the influence of this parent, if it's domineering or whatever it is, they fall away, or most of them fall away, or even one of them falls away. The point is, then what's going to happen to members of the church when they get away from him? That elder, that influence, that shepherding. It lacked something somewhere. And at least I'm prepared to accept it.
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't know. Are you saying, look, how does it read to you?
All right. Simple.
How does it read to you? Now, somebody says, well, we got this guy. We brought him in. We brought this guy in. He was a Baptist. He was an elder in the Baptist church. We converted him. He's got a great soul. He really knows the Bible. We'd like to make him an elder here. Can we do it? He's been a Christian for about 6 months now. A year. Next verse. Verse 6. And not a new convert, lest he become conceited and fall into the condemnation incurred by the devil. What was the devil's problem? He thought he was all that and didn't have to follow God because he was all that. That's the condemnation of the devil. So he can't be a new convert. Well, what's a new convert? How do you determine that? Well, I guess some of it is by the Bible knowledge that they have. Some of it's by their experience. But it's more than that. You don't even make them if they're an old man, an elder, a bishop, if they're a new convert. So how many months or years? I don't know the answer to that question. I know this, that I think it was after 2 years or so, Paul went back in his missionary journey and appointed elders in some of the congregations where he had established the church earlier. I think it was a 2-year span.
Church United. Yeah.
So when he went back, whatever that period of time is, and he appointed elders, that would be a good gauge. Wouldn't it? If he appointed elders in that time frame.
But that's just him doing appointing.
Yeah, of an elder. In a congregation where he didn't do it when he first went there. And anybody that was there preaching or any gifts of prophecy and other things that they had at the congregation because they didn't have a New Testament, they still didn't appoint elders until he came back and appointed the elders. So there's at least a 2 or 3 year period between those visits where he appointed. So that may give you a gauge. But I think month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, he's a new convert. You'd call anybody else a new convert. I don't care how bad you want Christians, or elders rather, you'd call anybody else a new convert at 6 months or a year. In most any congregation. From the first century to today. When I went to Sunset School of Preaching, I was a new convert. And I didn't like hearing it, but some of my classmates would remind me of that. Because when I went to Sunset School of Preaching, I was a Christian for 3 months.
You mean Rose Red? Oh, okay.
In Texas.
Oh, nice.
Lubbock, Texas. I was only 3 months a Christian. My wife too. So we were a couple of new converts there. Not a new convert. He must have a good reputation with those outside the church. That's a good one. Again, not scandalous. You can turn the heat off. Not scandalous. You can't bring up accusations against him. They know him as, you know what? He was a nice guy. He was a good guy, or he is a nice guy, or he'll do anything for you, or he's so hospitable, and he's always doing things, he's always asking me if I can do this and that for you. He's got a reputation. He's got a rep. He's not hiding to himself.
He's not just friendly with the church.
He's not just friendly with the church. Good point. Good point. But he's got a good reputation for those outside of the church. So that he may not fall into reproach and the trap or snare of the devil. What that is if you don't have a good reputation outside, they got you for something. Oh yeah, oh he's one of your bishops. Did you know this? Did you know that he embezzled money from this or that? Did you know that he had a fist fight with one of his neighbors? Did you know that he pulled a gun on somebody because he didn't like the way they were talking to his wife? Did you know that he grabbed a deacon by the throat in a Bible class? Did you know, and you just go on. And all you need is that outside the church. And the devil's got not only that you for following that elder, got that elder with his past, and now that person's probably never going to become a Christian because that elder doesn't have a good reputation. So your reputation in the community can affect whether or not somebody else in the community outside the church becomes a Christian. How they look at the church. How they see the church. You know, if I get into a traffic altercation with somebody and I get out and I scream and yell and tell them, you better get back in your car, you're going to the hospital. And the next week they see my YouTube videos on church leadership. And then they post, yeah, this guy threatened to kill me last week on the Veterans Memorial Highway or some other road. That wouldn't be good, would it? It wouldn't look good for me.
No.
It wouldn't look good for Huntington.
No.
Or the Church of Christ. Or that soul probably would, knowing that, yeah, Church of Christ. I go, oh, they're the church of boxers, the church of violent, pugnacious people.
Yeah.
Reputation is very important, even from those outside the church.
Have you ever heard of people checking with those outside the church for a particular...
No, and that really, you know what? If you want a gun, a pistol, they do something, at least in New York State, they do a thorough background check. A permit. They do it of your health, whether you're a felon, your criminal record, your psychological record. They check you out. And they'll call your relatives, they'll call your employer, they'll call a lot of people checking you out for a fact. Okay? You put yourself on the map when you apply for a pistol permit, at least in the state of New York. You say, here am I, check me out. When you do that kind of thing, you're asking people to check you out. When you do a job interview, what do you have to bring to any respectable company? References that they can call and they can ask. Not just past employers either, because a past employer, you know what they can give the next employer? You know what information? Yes, he or she worked here from this date to this date. Thank you. Were they a good employer? They worked here from this date to this date. That's all they can tell you. Because if they say anything else, that he doesn't work well with people, anything else, then that company can get sued by that potential employee for bad-mouthing them and slandering them to the next employee. So they don't do it now. They don't risk it. So they call other things, other people, personal references they'll ask for. And they have to vouch for. And they may check. Criminal, so on. When I rented out apartment and houses that I had, when I rent them out, I do a background check. Not only financial, but criminal. I want to know what's their criminal history and what's their financial history.
Right.
How many lawsuits have they had? How many times have they been arrested? How many convictions? What were they for? If they don't want to give me that information, they don't have to rent from me.
Right.
You know that there was somebody that was a preacher on Long Island that hightailed it out of here after he was background checked after he was hired. And they did a background check on him, one of the cops in the congregation, and found out he had all kinds of issues. He's not allowed to see his own kids in Florida, all kinds of issues. Anyway, he was unsummarily fired for hiding this. And then, but they didn't do due diligence in hiring him. Then he tried to sue them for investigating without his permission into his background. Where basically, now online, everything you've ever done is discoverable by just about anybody. You don't even need a warrant anymore.
Oh, I see.
You can log into Suffolk County clerk's office and look up anybody's arrest record,
Oh, true?
trial records, judgment records,
I didn't know that.
divorce records. They're all up there for everybody to see.
Okay.
I know who in my family owes their doctor money. Whatever. Or anybody else. Just need their last name. Look it up. So, but how often do we check out a prospective elder or preacher to find out what they're about before we hire them?
Right.
before we appoint them? Do they have a good reputation from those outside the church?
Outside of the church.
Well, that's none of your business. Oh, it's absolutely our business, according to this verse, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Oh, maybe you can ask my neighbor. Oh, how about if we ask your neighbors in the last place you lived? You're not getting that information. Well, thank you very much for applying. We'll let you know. Don't call us, we'll call you. Okay, good question though.